Hi folks, welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. Following on from the tutorial on the rectangular marquee tool, this time we're going to focus on the elliptical marquee tool. The elliptical marquee tool can be found at the top left of the tool palette. As you know, or should do by now, that this little black arrow on these tools indicates that there are other tools beneath, and if we click and hold on this tool, you can see that we have the elliptical marquee tool beneath. So I shall click on that to select it, and as you can see, we have the elliptical marquee tool selected. I'm going to go to the File menu to open a new image. I shall go to File, Open, and on the desktop, if I double click on the desktop, I have the Tendering Computer Club folder on the desktop. I shall double click to go in there, and I have People and Lifestyles folder. I shall double click to go in there. I shall scroll down to an image that I have already chosen for this tutorial, if I can find it. There we have it. I shall click on Open. I shall maximize the image. I shall double click on this layer to unlock it, to get rid of this lock icon because it restricts the editing. Double click and select OK. I'm going to duplicate this layer. You can do that by right clicking and select duplicate layer. You can also do it by going up to the layer menu and selecting duplicate layer, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control J, which is what I'm going to do now. I'll hold down the Control key, tap the J key once, and it will duplicate the layer. I'm going to turn off the visibility of this lower layer, and this is really kept as an insurance policy, so that if I should mess up, I can come back to this layer and I've got the original image in reserve. So I'm working on this layer at the moment. As you can see, this layer is selected by the blue selection. I have the elliptical marquee tool selected. The elliptical marquee tool is very similar to the rectangular marquee tool. There are some slight differences, but to all intents and purposes they're more or less the same. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag to make a selection, and I want to try to get as much of the subjects of the image into this selection as possible, but leave a space all around the edges of the image. So I shall go to about there, keep dragging, and remember, if you want to move the selection while you're dragging, you can hold the space bar down and you can drag the selection to any position you want. So I want to start around there at the top and around there at the left hand side, and try to make the spaces equal all round. So that should just about do it, I think. So I'll let go of the mouse and we've made the selection. Now what I want to do is to smooth out the edges of this selection, because I don't want it to be a sharp cutout. I don't want it to be a cookie cutter cutout. I want it to be smooth. So what I can do is go up to the select menu and choose feather, and feather is what is going to smooth out the edges. Now the amount that you feather, if I click on this feather choice, I get this window come up and I can choose the amount of feather that I want. Well, the amount that you feather this selection is going to depend on really the size of the image. So I'll just click OK there and I'll go Edit, Undo Feather, Control Z, and I'm going to look at the size of the image. Now this image, the size is 2,295 pixels wide by 1,536 pixels high. So I've got a fairly large image and I've got plenty of pixels to play with. But if this was only, the image was only about 200 by 150, I wouldn't have very many pixels to play with and I wouldn't want a very big feather. But because this image is quite large, I can use a quite large feather. So I select feather again, and this time I shall click OK and select that, accept that amount of feathering. What it has done is it's smoothed out this edge. It's not immediately obvious, but it will become so as we move on. At the moment, the central part of the image is selected, and if I was to press the delete key, I shall do that now. I shall hit the delete key and it's deleted the central part of the selection. You can see the smooth edge that is left, but obviously I don't want to do that, so I can go Edit, Undo Clear, which means it's undo the clearing of that selection. You could also use Control Z on the keyboard, but okay, we've done Undo Clear, so we've got back to where we were. And what we want to do is to delete the outer portion of the image. So we can go select inverse and it will select everything else but the central part of the image. As you can see, the marching ants around the edge indicates that this part of the image is the selection. So now when I hit the delete key, I'll do that now, we've left the central portion and got rid of the outer edge, which is what I wanted to achieve. So we have the outer edge deleted. Now I'm going to deselect the selection. You can go up to the select menu and deselect, or you can do Control D on your keyboard. It'll achieve the same thing. I'll do it from the menu here. So that selection's gone away. Now what I want to do, I don't want this outer area left as a transparent area. I don't want it left blank. So what I'm going to do is to create a new layer, and this is the layer palette here, and we've got this layer selected, which is the couple and the child in the canoe. I'll turn off the visibility just to prove that it is the right layer that we've got selected. I want to create a layer below this layer that we have selected. If I was to just click on this new layer icon at the bottom here, I'll create a new layer, it would go above that current selection. But I want the new layer to be below that selection. So I shall hold down the Control key and hit the Z key once. That undoes the last action and undoes the creation of that new layer. We have this new layer selected. I want to create a new layer below the currently selected layer. So I'll hold down the Control key while I click on this Create New Layer icon, And as you can see, it creates the new layer below the currently selected, or the one that we had selected. So now we have this new layer. I shall turn off the visibility of this upper layer, and you can see that this layer is empty. But I want to fill this layer with a colour that would be suitable for the background. Now it's a matter of choice. You can click on here and select any colour you wish. You can, the colour up here at the top is the one that you will get when you click OK. You can choose a red colour or beige type colour, yellow, go up the scale, green, blue, and so on. And you can choose whatever colour you wish. I think really your background layer colour is more suited to a sort of beigey type and a almost white but not quite, which is what I've already got at the moment. So I'm going to cancel out of this and leave the foreground colour as it is. And I have this layer selected, and I'm going to fill that layer. Edit, fill. I can choose the foreground colour, the background colour. I can choose a colour which will bring up the colour palette again. But I don't want to choose a different colour. I'll click cancel, but you could if you wish. You can also choose a pattern. We'll go into these later. At the moment I want to choose the foreground colour, which is this colour here. So I'll choose the foreground colour and I'll click on OK, and as you can see, this layer here has been filled with that colour. Turn off the top layer to prove it. This layer is filled with the colour. But what I want to do now is to give some sort of texture to that layer to make it appear similar to a canvas. And we can do that by going to the filter menu and the filter gallery. And I already have the texture department selected. You can spend a lot of time in here looking around and all different sorts of effects that you can get. But I'll leave that to you to have a look round. I'm going to concentrate on the texture one at the moment and the texturizer, which we have selected at the moment. This window gives you a preview of what you're likely to get when you click OK. At the moment we have texturizer, which is what we want. We have canvas selected. You could also choose brick, burlap, whatever that is, type of paper I think, I'm not sure, sandstone, but I'm going to choose the canvas option. These sliders will give you a different scaling of the image. You can see the preview changing as you up and down with the sliders. You get it to whatever takes your fancy. The relief you can change. It's a matter of taste, obviously. But I'm going to leave it like this. I'm going to click OK, and as you can see we have a type of almost a canvas background. I'm not totally happy with that, but you can always go back to the filter gallery again and make some changes to it. Click OK and change it to whatever you feel. So that's a basic demonstration really of the elliptical selection tool. There are other things that you could do with this image, like we could put a frame on the outside, we could put a style on the actual subject of the image, maybe a drop shadow or something like that, but we'll go into all these later. Remember, the elliptical marquee tool is more or less the same as the rectangular marquee tool. You have the options up here to create a new selection, add to the selection, subtract from selection, and so on. So if you've seen the tutorial on the rectangular marquee tool, it is very similar. But for now, that's the elliptical marquee tool in Photoshop. Have fun.